The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Vote for Hoppe Hour as best local podcast by the Creative Loafing Tampa. Spread the word.
Are you feeling classy today? Sit down, pour a glass of wine, and listen to Hoppe Hour.
You're tuned in to Hoppe Hour, an hour where Hoppe rants about something. Sit back and listen in. Hoppe Hour is on now. Hoppe Hour is on now.
What up? What is happening? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. And on the phone line, we have a radio legend from Radio 95.1. Brother Wease of The Wease Show is on Hoppe Hour. What's up, dude?
I'm on the Hoppe Hour. It's phenomenal.
How honored are you? You've done so much in your radio career. Did you ever think in any of your dreams that you would be on the phone line with Ryan Hoppe on his podcast?
That's phenomenal, Ryan. If there's anybody I think's going somewhere in radio, it's Brother Ryan Hoppe. That's for damn sure. This guy loves it, and it's a tough time to be digging radio as much as you do, bro.
What do you think is going on with radio? Why is it so hard to break into it? Those words flatter me, but what is it about the business that's so hard to break into now in 2015?
Well, I mean, I feel really terrible telling you the truth because you're the only really young guy I know that is so aimed at trying to make this work. And if anybody does, I'm sincerely saying that it's going to be you. But the fact of the matter, Ryan, is that the whole world that I've lived in and a lot of other people has changed completely in the last 10 years to, I mean, bro, everybody is voice tracking. They have syndicated shows on every channel. So all the opportunities that would have been there for you 20 years ago just aren't there anymore. I hate telling you this.
Now, do you think FM Talk will ever make a comeback, or will this just be podcasts in the future? Because your show is described as FM Talk. Is that format dead, or is there a chance that it could make a comeback in the near future? What do you think?
I don't think that. I mean, look, I'm lucky enough that I'm at this end of my career, and I'm lucky enough that what we do is at least unique, so we always will have a spot until I want to quit. But the podcasts, which so many people are doing just like you are, it's a big deal. It's just that I don't know how people are going to know they want to hear it. In other words, people in the city and who listen to iHeartRadio, people can pick up my show all over the country, and they do. And people in our own cities can run across my show by accident. I don't know how that works because I'm too old to know in the podcasting world. You tell me.
Well, what you do is you have an RSS feed and you send it into like TuneIn, Spreaker, iTunes, and then people can download, and then they can listen on their Android, their iPad, their iTouch, or their iPhone, obviously, or they can listen online. So to me, brother, it depends on if there's money and how much can be made by it. I mean, there are guys that make money. There's Adam Carolla, there's Tom Likas, Don Geronimo. But the thing is, and there's Kevin Smith, guys like that. But the problem with it, brother, is I just named 4 celebrities. I mean, you don't see the little guys making big money off of it. So what do you think podcasts and shows like this need to do to be different than most shows? Because that's what you have done throughout your radio career. You've been different than every other morning show. Or what do podcasts need to do to be different than other ones?
Well, unfortunately, it seems to me that you just illustrated the situation.
Yeah.
Everybody that's making money on podcasts originally had another way to get their message to people, except for Kevin Smith, who's already famous, so he has a following. The question is, I don't know the answer to, is how people like Ryan Hoppe can get followers without, making a splash. You got to make a friggin' you got to get naked and bang a few chicks Look at some of those YouTube. You're young enough to know these people. I'm not. But I just saw that chick, Jenna Marbles.
Oh, she is the worst, dude. She has no talent. She is the worst, bro.
But she's famous, and I didn't know. The kids I work with showed me her YouTube station with all those millions of people, and she's terrible. But I just heard her. She's got a show on satellite, radio show, with all the top tunes that are trending. Oh, God.
That's such a dead format, though. I mean, your guy, Opie and Jimmy's a good show, Bennington, Howard, but that's about it. I mean, satellite radio to me is more about, can they bring in the celebrities that don't know about radio and not the radio guys that aren't as famous. And to me, that's why satellite radio never took off as much as it could, bro. It's because they tried to bring in guys like Eminem with like Shade 45. They go with the flash, but not with the good radio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let me ask you, bro. How do you get people to hear your podcast?
Well, I'm very lucky, I would say, sort of. When I was on Rover's Morning Glory, I was on there for 3 months. We went separate ways, and that fan base, they either love me, bro, or they hate me. There's no in between. The RMG fans either love me or hate me, so they listen to my show. Also, when I get these guests on, it helps promote it because people will look up Brother Wease or E-Rock from Opie and Jimmy. And then I'm on 102.5 The Bone every once in a while, and I work behind the scenes and promotions. So I'm not saying I'm better than any other podcast. Everybody's equal. But what I try to do is bring in names that can help me give my podcast bigger. Because, dude, I did my show for 2 years before I moved to Cleveland, and I'd be lucky if I got 20 listens. Now each show has 70 downloads on iTunes, so I feel very blessed that I have some exposure.
Well, listen, I can tell you something right now. It will either cost you listeners or gain you listeners. But it's just a coincidence that you brought up Rover. Comment? Well, this is just a weird thing. Rover, obviously, you know, I know that he's had a lot of chances in big cities that went in the toilet. But he's in Cleveland and in Rochester. Do you know what any other markets he's in?
None of them are major markets. Cleveland's not even a major market. It's a medium market, right?
Yeah, so I mean, anyway, long story short, he has a few listeners in my city, obviously much younger people. But the funniest coincidence is my co-host, Marianne Sirk, who's on national TV as a comedian, she's a stand-up comic. She was just on vacation, and she just got back today. It's so strange that you bring up Rover because she says, I heard Rover. I forgot where she heard him. And she heard a really, really bad fake bit. And it's funny because I won't do those. And it made her puke. The bit was, I'm trying to remember, but some chick called up, it was about Ashley Madison. You know, everybody's talking about Ashley Madison.
Yeah.
So some chick called up from Rochester. And Marianne, she said it was the fakest phone call in the world. Now let me tell you something, Marianne. You know about War of the Roses and all that shit. Well, War of the Roses is a bit that many radio people do. It's a fake bit, but it's a great bit. I just refuse to do them. But they're great bits because people fall for it, and it's just radio. But Marianne, when she lived in Los Angeles, was working comedy and TV in Los Angeles. She was one of the actors that calls these radio stations and pretends she's, having a war with her husband. So she really knows those fake bits. And she heard it on Rover, and she goes, good Lord, who buys that crap? But that's radio. Different strokes for different folks. All the more power to them. I need to see you get going.
I'm not even trying to kiss your ass, bro. But that's what I love about you and Opie and Anthony and now Opie and Jimmy is you don't rely on fake bits and you don't rely on teasing people and making fun of their life and exploitation for ratings. You bring out original content, and that's why you rule that market. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I mean, I've been really lucky, Ryan, because I've had a really, really, really different life. And that's the difference between, you know, all the shows that I can name you, the radio announcers that knew how to be funny or knew how to screw around. I'm not even that talented, but if I ever had time to tell you, my life is an unbelievable story, and I'm still living it. I'm on the way to Boca right now, but that's no big deal. But, I mean, 3 tours in Vietnam. I was at all 3 Woodstocks. I was the head MC of the last Woodstock. I was a concert promoter. I've been kidnapped before by gangsters. These are all real things, and I live a different life. So what I do is I live my life on the radio, and I don't need to make shit up. And it's just lucky because I'm not, you know, I don't like doing that fake crap. So I've been lucky that way. I can't say that everybody can do that. You have to have a real personality, and you have to go out and look for shit that, you know, can make a good story the next day. You know, I'm constantly out. I mean, since I got off here this morning, I was in a very, very important restaurant for lunch today with some of my boys, drinking and eating, seeing the headliners in town. Now I'm on the way to Port. I mean, there's always some action, and you should do that too. I'm not saying just, you know, get some wacky shit going on.
I do think about that a lot because I work 2 jobs. I work here at the Bone, and I do pizza delivery. And when I had more time on my hands when I did the podcast back in Illinois before I moved to Cleveland and now Tampa, wackier things happened because I would hang out with my friends on the weekend, and wackier things happened in Cleveland, which I brought to Rover. But now that I work 2 jobs, I do think about that a lot. I love when I rant. I do believe that that is one of the best things I'm good at, is ranting and speaking my mind. But I do think about that a lot, that I need to figure out wacky things that happen in my life, or what's so weird and strange and wacky about Ryan Hoppe. So I want to get some advice from you. What are the best ways to, like, find things about you that would be great for the radio world?
Well, what you got to do is, even when you're delivering pizzas, I'm sure that you could tell a story about something in a whole lot of delivering pizzas. It doesn't have to be that wacky, but you can twist it up a little bit the way you see it. That might be interesting to the common man, because they all can relate to delivering fucking pizzas. So, you know, everything that you do is relatable. And that's all. You ain't got to go out of your way unless it's really who you are. But you got to really be able to relate stuff that happens to you on your radio show, say, or your podcast. That's all you got to do. And that's what that's what the good shows do. And that's all there is to it. But you got to live a life. That's the.
This is a thing that I never got to ask you when I met you at the morning show boot camp 2 years ago, and then when I saw you there last year. How did you get the nickname Brother Wease?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've been Wease. I started out as a young boy, and this is a little embarrassing, but my nickname was Weasel because there were 2 guys with the exact same name in the neighborhood, our real names. So they named me Weasel because I was a good thief. It's a bad thing to say, but I'm a good thief. But I used to win contests stealing stuff from stores. Pretty nasty. But then I was Weasel, and I was the Wease my whole life. When I went to Vietnam, everything, my name was Wease. So when I was a concert promoter, and was still Wease, when they asked me to go on the radio, you know, I just never thought it would be a career. I thought I was just fooling around. So I called myself Brother Wease because I call everybody Brother Ryan, Brother Joe, Sister Susie, Sister Sleeves. I don't know if you ever heard about Sister Sleeves, but she's Stephanie Miller. Have you ever heard of Stephanie Miller?
Yes, she's a progressive talk show host in the morning.
She still is. She started her radio career with me. She has a book out right now, actually. She has a couple pages with me in it. We used to call it Brother Wease and Sister Sleeves. Her father ran for vice president with Barry Goldwater. It was Goldwater Miller. That was her dad. Big Republican, and she's a big liberal Democrat. But anyway, Stephanie was a big deal, and a lot of people I worked with it's funny because I went Brother Wease just for a joke. If I knew it was going to be a career, I probably would have done something else. But there it is.
You are famously known because Opie and B.J. Shea from B.J. and Miggs in Seattle interned with you. How did you find those guys? And when you met them, did you know that they were going to be great in radio?
No, it's impossible. Opie interned. B.J. was my sidekick, actually, 2 different times. I love the B.J. B.J. reminds me of an older you because he is completely into radio. I'm not into radio as much as those guys are. B.J. is insane with radio. As you know, he's got both his kids on with him now. I knew him when they were born. And Opie, we were just such, the fact is that, I took him under my wing when he was just out of college, and other guys at the radio station didn't treat him so well. So he remained close to me from when he went to Long Island, and then to Boston, and then to New York. So, we remained really, really close, and I couldn't be prouder of him. And he used, what he learned from me as a base for his doing his show.
What is it about Opie that makes him such a great host?
Listen, I just know he's a great guy, and he knows how to do the radio. He loves to do the radio, and he just does a great job at it. I don't get to hear the show that much, so I can't even tell you. You would know more. You probably hear it.
I do hear it. What I like about Opie is he knows when a bit needs to end, so he knows how to, conduct the show and move on. And he's great at getting all these funny comedians to come into one room, and it just sounds like a bunch of dudes at a bar just drinking a beer. That's what I love about Opie. He has a great radio mind, bro, and he knows how to conduct the show.
I will tell you, there was a time when he wouldn't bring comedians on, and you had to talk him a bit into it. And then, of course, the rest is history. He's got the best comedians for the longest time. But let me tell you this, something you just mentioned. When Opie would be out sick, when Anthony was still there, Opie and Anthony, when Opie would be out sick and stuff, people would always, the Anthony fans would go, who needs Opie and stuff. You just brought out the reason. Opie knows how to quarterback, and that's what I do. I remember a time in my career, a really long time ago, people used to say to me, why do you give Sister Sleaze? Why do you let Stephanie Miller talk so much? That's because I realized I never thought I was any good at this. And if I surrounded myself with good people, then it would look like Wease is great. It isn't even me, but it was my show. When I had Sam Kinison on my show for a week at a time, before he was even on Howard, I did Seinfeld in the studio, Adam Sandler, so many people I can't even tell you, but this is a long, long time ago. And during that time, when comedians would go to radio shows, these dickwad morning show hosts, they were afraid of getting upstaged. So they would try to out-funny these guys. You got to understand, this is 28, 29, 30 years ago. They would try to be funnier than the comedian. I didn't do that at all. I let them talk all they wanted, and I got the credit. You dig what I'm saying?
Yes, I do, because I listen to a lot of radio shows now and then, but now that I work in radio the past 9 months now, I don't listen as much, but you can hear the shows when they have a guest on. You can hear if the guest is having a good time or if he wants it to end. And when they're not having a good time is when the dude babbles or talks about himself and doesn't let the guest talk. Like, the guest is sitting in on your show. You should be giving him the platform to promote what he wants or say what he wants. So that's what I respect about you and Opie, is you just sort of sit back and let the guests bring their magic.
Well, I will tell you the truth, bro. I'm in a position now, this is not in the day, but I'm in a position now where I get a lot of really bad comedians on the program because I support the comedy club. So when that's happening, I have to keep the show going. But my point about Opie was being the quarterback of a morning radio show is very, very important, and it's not understood by the common listener. You get it because you're into this radio thing. But that was a big part of Opie's thing that you noticed about moving on. You take a guy like that out of the equation, and you'll hear a worse radio show, I guarantee you.
Now, you were a concert promoter before you worked in radio. Was that how you got your foot in the door?
I wasn't even trying to get my foot in the door. I'll tell you this, and I got to go into poker. One night when I was a concert promoter, the guy's name is Trip Lee. Trip Lee was the general manager of K-Rock in L.A. at the end. He was the program director at CMF 30 years ago. More than 30 years ago, what am I talking about? And he used to come, I used to buy commercials on his rock radio station, and he used to come to the shows. I had big bands playing. And one night he said to me, Brother Wease, you ever want to be on the radio? I said, who doesn't want to be on the radio? He says, I need somebody tonight, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. I said, I don't know how to do it. I don't have any idea how to do that shit. He goes, I got a college girl in there. She'll do the mechanics. You just talk. So I went there. It was an overnight Friday night after a show. And all of a sudden, I started doing it. Then I was working. Then I got a job at the radio station in sales. And that, it just all ended up. Then I got my first full-time DJ job was 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And I broke all the rules. And I was doing bits. I don't mean bits. I was playing like funny crap off the records, like George Carlin. You know, none of that stuff was programmed. And anyways, they eventually gave me the morning show, which I was too scared to do even then. I go, I don't even know how to run a second mic. Because, you know, I had a news broad, a sports guy. I didn't even know how to do that. And I was scared to death. And when I did it, the first few days, people were calling the GM going, you're either going to be the biggest hero or the laughing stock of Rochester because of how bad I was. Bro, I'm the worst. I'm the worst. But luck hit from being this different. Luck to me out like a mule.
Now, before I let you go, because I want to go let you play poker, I just want to say, brother, when I met you 2 years ago at the morning show boot camp, I will be honest, I was a bit nervous because you're a legend in this business and this and that. But I cannot thank you enough for everything you have done for me the past 2 years, your support and your kind words before this podcast. It means a lot for it to be coming from a guy like you in this business.
Well, bro, I'm squeezing for you. That's my line. I'm cheering for you. And if anybody gets there, it should be you. So keep pushing.
And good luck. I hope you make some good cash tonight in poker.
While you're talking, bro, take care.
All right, bye. And that was radio legend. And when I say legend, he is what you would call the definition of radio because he doesn't need to exploit people to bring up his ratings. He's just a guy who does great interviews, who brings in great guests. And when I met him at the morning show boot camp, it was weird. I knew what Brother Wease looked like because you would hear Opie talk about him on Opie and Anthony. And I'm in the main lobby at the Renaissance Hotel. I will never forget. It's when I first walked in. I was so giddy. I had my Dunkin' Donuts coffee cup in my hand. I'm so hyper and pumped. I just got off the CTA, the bus. I'm so pumped. So I walk into the Renaissance Hotel where the morning show boot camp is at. And I see this guy, and I see Paulie and Marianne from the show as well. And I go, is that Brother Wease? And I go up, and Brother could attest to this. I'm like, Brother Wease, man, I love your show. You're one of my influences. And now I know people think that I say influences a lot. I have a ton of influences. Radio is one of my main things. And when I met him, he could not have been more courteous, more classy, and more nice to me. So to have him on Hoppe Hour is beyond an honor. There's times when I'm doing these podcasts, I'm sitting back and I'm listening and I'm going, I have a radio legend who took over a market for the last 30 years and counting in radio on my podcast that I'm recording in a production room at the Cox Media Building here in St. Petersburg. I mean, it's one of those things where I just sit back and I appreciate my life. So I cannot thank Brother Wease enough for his support and for helping me along the way. And if you want to hear his show, it's not hard. Go to radio951.com. That is radio951.com. Or you can download the iHeartRadio app and search up Radio 95.1. Also on their website, they have all the podcasts of his show. Also, he's on Twitter at Brother Wease. Now, for me, vote Hoppe Hour, please, as best local podcast in the Tampa Bay area by their creative loafing at tinyurl.com/vote Hoppe Hour. That is tinyurl/vote Hoppe Hour. Download my app, Hoppe Radio, in the iOS shop. If you have an Android device, it's not hard. Just download TuneIn or Spreaker and search up Hoppe Radio. HoppeRadio.com, HoppesRoad.com, and on the Friends of Hoppe tab at HoppesRoad.com, you can buy Hoppe decals, Hoppe Hour decals to put on your car, put on your laptop. It's just $4, and you're helping to support local businesses like Solis Graphics in Duluth, Minnesota. My guy, Nicholas Seymour. All right, this has been Hoppe Hour. Thanks again to Brother Wease for coming on the show. I am ecstatic. I will be turning 22 years old. Man, I'm so old. But seriously, the one and only Mike Kelta from the Mike Kelta Show on 102.5 The Bone in Tampa Bay will be coming on Hoppe Hour. This is like a dream come true. Tune in tomorrow. I appreciate you listening. Bye.
Hoppe Hour. Hoppe Hour.
This is an official broadcast of Hoppe Radio. For more info, check out hopperadio.com and hoppesworld.com.